Be sure to hit that like button and hit that subscribe button and scroll down and get on our mailing list. Why? Because every now and then, from time to time, for reasons I don't understand, YouTube has issues with our videos. So to make sure you don't miss anything, get on our mailing list. Also, you see that big donate button, hit that, throw a little something in the tip jar to make sure you still get hard-hitting, honest shows. And remember, LarryWithEpoch.com, LarryWithEpoch.com. Epoch Times have reported that the U.S. is overcounting COVID deaths. Quote, a doctor who appeared prominently in the media during the pandemic acknowledged this week that the U.S. is overcounting COVID-19 deaths and stressed the need for what she called transparent reporting on the real numbers. Leanna Ween, a former Planned Parenthood director who now works for CNN and the Washington Post, told the channel that natural immunity and vaccinations have reduced severe COVID-19 cases since the start of the pandemic. She said, we're seeing many people who are hospitalized with COVID, and I think it's important, she said, to separate out who is being hospitalized because of it. She then asked a question that many others have asked over the past 3 years. Quote, but are these Americans dying from COVID or dying with COVID? 2 infectious disease experts, she said, I spoke with, believe the number of deaths attributed to COVID is far greater than the actual number of people dying from COVID. And she wrote, notably, several California counties in the mid-2021 changed how they counted COVID-19 deaths. In one county, the death figure then dropped by 22%, while in another, 400 fewer deaths were reported following those changes. She said, quote, a year ago, this was a conspiracy theory that would get you censored, wrote a prominent vaccine skeptic, Robert Kennedy Jr., on Twitter. And a California-based epidemiologist wrote, it is amazing how long it has taken for the U.S. to accept this as a problem, end of quote, noting that in Denmark in 2021, changed how they would distinguish those who died with COVID-19 from those who died from the virus. Here is an excerpt from my recent interview with Dr. Peter McCullough, who said the vaccine did more harm than good. Did we underestimate the side effects? Specifically, I'm talking about what appears to be a large number of young athletes dying early with myocarditis. Is that something concerning to you about that?
It's greatly concerning. What we know here is that early in 2021, the federal government, White House and HHS, initiated the COVID Community Core program. And the website is We Can Do This. Over $13 billion federal dollars flowed out to a variety of organizations, universities, churches, ethnic groups, the NFL and sports teams to promote the vaccines and actually drive mass vaccination. The NFL prominently took them. And then it went on from there. It's really been now a disaster. Since the COVID Community Core program, the FDA says the vaccines cause myocarditis. The sports leagues in the summer of 2021 mandated the vaccines. The NFL specifically mandated the vaccine from August of 2021 to March of 2022, 8 months. They declared 95% of the athletes have taken the vaccine. And then the NFL pulls the vaccine and all the COVID protocols as if COVID doesn't exist anymore in March of 2022. And now we have a sudden death on the field. We know in cardiology, if there's heart damage, if there's myocarditis, we cannot let them play on the athletic field because it'll trigger a cardiac arrest.
Doctor, have you been vaccinated, and what do you tell your patients about the vaccine?
No, under no circumstances would I take the COVID vaccine. Now, prior to COVID-19, I had taken all the vaccines, and as a doctor, I take some additional ones, and I've traveled. I've taken ones required from overseas. But the COVID-19 vaccine is emergency use authorized. It's a genetic mechanism. What we've learned is it doesn't leave the body. It stays in there, we think, permanently. It's producing the Wuhan spike protein, which causes disease. We know the vaccine now gets into the heart, the brain, the nervous system, the adrenal glands. Everything we've learned about the vaccine since its release is not good. And boy, am I glad I didn't take it.
Doctor, did you get COVID?
I got COVID in October of 2020. I went through a multi-drug treatment protocol sponsored and approved by the FDA, sponsored from a research center in California. So I did the right thing. I took hydroxychloroquine in a research study. I developed pulmonary involvement. And I did recover. I was not hospitalized, and that was with the earlier versions of the virus. And then in context, I had a second version of probably the Omicron infection in December of 2021, and that was mild and self-limited.
Bottom line, Dr. McCullough, last question. Vaccine, more harm than good?
At this point in time, on December 7th, 2022, I co-moderated the U.S. Senate panel on this, chaired by Senator Ron Johnson, assisted by Senator Roger Marshall. I made the conclusion the vaccine should be pulled off the market, all of them. They're not safe enough for human use. By assent, the group agreed. The calls have gone out now in the UK Parliament, Australia, in India, in the EU Parliament. Worldwide, the vaccine should be removed from the market.
Are the Biden administration's New Year's goals of tax and spend and turn a blind eye to inflation at odds with your goals of securing your savings? When you finally had enough of the games government is playing with your savings and retirement, diversify into gold with Birch Gold. I know I'm tired of my money being impacted by stupid decisions by leaders in Washington. I bet you are too. For over 5,000 years, gold has withstood inflation, geopolitical turmoil, and stock market crashes. And here's the great news. You can still get it. In fact, you can own gold and silver in a tax-sheltered retirement account. Birch Gold makes it easy to convert an IRA or 401k into an IRA in precious metals. Here's what you need to do. Just visit LarryForGold.com to claim your free info kit on gold. With almost 20 years experience converting IRAs and 401ks into precious metal IRAs, Birch Gold can help you protect yourself with gold today by visiting LarryForGold.com. They've got an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau, thousands of happy customers, and countless 5-star reviews. So, secure your future with gold. Start today with a free info kit. There's zero obligation to make this request. Just visit LarryForGold.com. That's LarryForGold.com. Is Bill Maher guilty of spreading the raw sewage of misinformation on COVID?
Private healthcare decisions. Be careful with that phrase. I read in the front page of the New York Times this week, there is a new voting bloc, a new constituency, anti-mandate. They said mostly parents, but these are people who are not going to vote based on Republican or Democrat. They're going to vote based on COVID policy. I'm one of them, and I don't even have kids. You know, it's a medical issue. I do not want to be dictated. There is no the science, especially in medical science. You can recommend whatever you like, but I must insist you don't insist how I handle my health. I never was.
Yeah.
Okay?
No,
Obama told me, if you like your doctor, you can keep your doctor. Well, I did and I do. And my doctors, I know many of them, say very different things because doctors are afraid to speak out. You've written about this a lot, right?
Yeah.
And I want to listen to the ones who are sometimes afraid to speak out, although you can find them.
Yeah. I think that's the one issue where the Democrats are really, really weak on. The freedom topic is the freedom of speech issue. That's become a very difficult and fraught issue for Democrats. Ever since the beginning of the content moderation era on the internet, there are a lot of people who associate the Democratic Party with people being taken off the internet and, people being afraid to say certain things. And that's not a positive, and it's the complete opposite of what I remember liberalism being about when I was growing up.
Especially in medical science, which is eminently debatable, and they've already been wrong about so much in this particular crisis that we've had, not to mention everything they've been wrong about in the past. So don't sit there in your white coat telling me we have all the answers. You obviously don't.
Careful, Mr. Maher. You're this far from being canceled and being called a white supremacist. You've been warned. Now, in Davos, speaking of COVID, the CEO of Pfizer probably regrets not taking a limo to his destination. Watch this.
Mr. Borla, can I ask you, when did you know that the vaccines didn't stop transmission? How long did you know that without saying it publicly?
Thank you very much.
I'm sorry. Answer that question. I mean, we now know that the vaccines didn't stop transmission, but why did you keep it secret? You said it was 100% effective, then 90%, then 80%, then 70%. But we now know that the vaccines do not stop transmission. Why did you keep that secret?
Have a nice day.
I won't have a nice day until I know the answer. Why did you keep it a secret that your vaccine did not stop transmission?
Is it time to apologise to the world, sir? To give refunds back to the countries that poured all their money into your vaccine that doesn't work, your ineffective vaccine?
Yeah, you have a little bit around.
Are you not ashamed of what you've done in the last couple of years?
Do you have any apologies to the public, sir?
Are you proud of it? You've made millions on the backs of people's entire livelihoods. How does that feel to walk the streets as a millionaire on the backs of the regular person at home in Australia, in England, in Canada?
What do you think about on your yacht, sir? What do you think about on your private jet? Are you worried about product liability? Are you worried about myocarditis?
What about the sudden deaths?
What do you have to say about young men dropping dead of heart attacks every day? Why won't you answer these basic questions? No apologies, sir.
Do you think you should be charged criminally for some of the criminal behaviour you've obviously been a part of?
How much money have you personally made off the vaccine?
How many boosters do you think it'll take for you to be happy enough with your earnings? Nothing?
Who did you meet with here in secret? Will you disclose who you met with? Who did you pay commissions to? In the past, Pfizer has paid $2.3 billion in fines for deceptive marketing. Have you engaged in that same conduct again? Are you under investigation like you were before for your deceptive marketing, sir?
If any other product in the world doesn't work as promised, you get a refund. Should you not refund to countries that laid out billions for your ineffective vaccine?
Are you used to only sympathetic media, so you don't know how to answer any questions?
Is that it? Shame on you, sir.
Shame on you.
When we come back, wokeism at Forbes magazine? Say it ain't so. How did this drivel get into Forbes? The article is entitled, How to Model Anti-Racist Behaviors and Talk to Children About Race. Quote, it is never too early to start raising an anti-racist child, but the first step is becoming an anti-racist parent, end of quote. My goodness. Minorities are victims of white racism. And in order for minorities to overcome their victimhood, their victimizers must admit that they're supremacists. It is, of course, as I said, drivel. And watch this interview with the brilliant but troubled comedian Richard Pryor, whose drug abuse almost killed him and certainly compromised his health and cut short his career. He's candid about his difficulties, confronting his demons.
Hell. If there's a hell, I've been there. There is a hell. And the devil turned out to be me. Turned out to be yourself. Because I thought about, at one point, look at the opportunity I've been given to do so much. And whatever I end up doing, I got a bass pipe in my hand. And fifth of Cavassier in the other. In a room all alone by myself. Loving no one and doubting if anyone loved me. I didn't know what I was getting into. That's how I feel. Had I known what I was getting into, I wouldn't have it. I wouldn't have this coming. I wouldn't at all.
What has happened that has soured you?
I came in with an idea, and it's not that anymore. It's a business. It really is. It's awful easy to lead someone else's life. It always has been. And people find that the best way the rest of their lives, most people. What someone should have did, or they should have, and they shouldn't have. I don't concern myself with that. People don't want to deal with themselves, what hurts them. They don't even know most of the time anymore, because they're so confused, get so many mixed messages. Now it'd be very difficult for me, I believe, at this moment, to get in the kind of situations I used to be in anymore. I don't have the energy for it, to play it, to act angry. I see myself doing it. Sometimes I start getting angry. Am I angry? No. acting angry. You're playing this game. I don't want to play it with my life anymore. And I just felt all this tremendous stuff inside of me. Just, I can't describe the feeling. It was just positive. When I come out of the hospital, I was new, brand new person. I didn't know what to do. I got scared, being new. Didn't know where to go, where to turn. So I turned to my old ways. Something familiar. I wasn't courageous enough just to keep stepping. I didn't know how then. Because somewhere in your mind, in your sickness and your disease, you think they're your friends. You convince yourself those are my friends. And they give you this poison. You gotta realize it not. It takes a while for you to realize you weren't being your friend by being there. And you remove yourself.
I think it had something to do with the people around you.
It had to do with me. Nobody's fault, mine. The people around me because of me. And then you get the people, when you get well, and you start removing yourself from the people that are hurting you. No matter what you are, or who you are, or what you do, there's a you that you must deal with eventually. To surrender. That's a hard thing to do for any person, I believe. Just to surrender. I mean, I've quit a lot in my life and stopped doing this for a while and stopped doing that for a while. But just to stop everything, to surrender, to admit to yourself, God, I need your help. I can't do this alone. That was hard.
Pryor concludes that life comes down to choices, that you are in charge of you. Oddly, Pryor never mentioned systemic, foundational, covert, overt, unconscious, enduring racism. Not one word about microaggressions. Nothing. You are in charge of you. Now, when we come back, an encounter in a woman's gym locker and your calls. Finally, there is this man, don't know whether he is transitioning or will be transitioning or is thinking about transitioning or has transitioned.
I am at the gym in Arizona. He was undressing in the locker room, top off, bra off, and Paul Bixler was in the women's locker room. And he looked at me, and he looked at my breasts, and I have called the police. Recently, he's used the men's locker room. So he agrees himself that he's a man. I have told the police that I was in the locker room. A man was in there. I was getting undressed. He looked at me. He is a man in the women's locker room. And the response is that this is a touchy, sensitive issue in society. Yep, there he goes, women's locker room. There's the man going in the women's locker room. Hope there's no one undressing in there. Hope there's no naked women in there. Since there's a man, why isn't anyone warning the women? Just so everyone knows, he's not being arrested. We are at a point where we're catering to society instead of facts. This is alarming. Women's rights are being violated. And I'm not going to put up with it. But Paul, if you're a female, why do you use the men's restroom sometimes and the women's restroom sometimes?
Please stay away from it. Yes, politely, like I said.
He will suffer no consequences for this.
This is where we are today in our society. Maybe he was just lost, poor sense of direction. Now remember, you can always leave a message, 888-971-7243, 888-971-SAGE. Make sure, as I said earlier, your message is under 59 seconds. And por favor, no profanity. I'm Larry Elder. This has been the Larry Elder Show for Epic Times. Remember, we've got a country to save. I'll see you next time.